Yeah, I think, meeting a team of people that you've never met before in another country. We had a really great team that was very quickly, very cohesive. But I think speaking to probably the audience of this podcast, I think many of us have participated in, either bringing a line onto service or restoring a bridge from an emergency, and the emotions surrounding watching that locomotive cross for the very first time. That's a very powerful moment, but I think it really pales in comparison to helping somebody who's a senior citizen of a community or even a school walk across a bridge for the first time that has in the past years people have lost livestock and food and even some of their lives. So really just being able to have that really personal connection to something that you were doing, and really seeing like we get the opportunity to serve the community in a transportation system, but we don't very often get the direct sort of influence that we're providing. So that was really cool for me.
You may know the American Railway Engineering and Maintenance of Way Association, or AREMA, as the, quote, keepers of the manuals. You may know them as the, quote, people behind the largest annual railroad conference in North America. Heck, you may not know about AREMA at all. This podcast is designed, no pun intended, to change your view of who AREMA is and how AREMA has changed the trajectory of many railway careers over its 100-plus year history. Welcome to Platform Chats with your host, Walt Blesser, where he takes a moment to discuss the impacts AREMA has had on the very people who are proud to be called members. Are you ready to roll with AREMA?
ARE Corporation is a proud supporter of AREMA and Platform Chats. If you are looking to take your railway structures career to the next level, or simply start it down the right track, please visit us at arecorp.com. Please see our brand new job postings on our careers page or on our LinkedIn page.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of AREMA's Platform Chats podcast. I'm your host, Walt Blesser. Can't believe I'm here for episode number 41. Again, I know I talk about this a lot. I've given up on trying to keep track of seasons and episodes as if we were a Netflix documentary of some form, but we are not. So we are in episode number 41. I think this is the second or third this year. It's been a bit of a blur. I cannot believe we're recording in February, and the first quarter is almost behind us. We had a very successful RBS. I hope you enjoyed the RBS podcast. That was, of all the podcasts I've done thus far, it was one that brought me to get a case of the giggles, more so than I ever have before. But it must have worked because we had 320 participants. That's registered participants. And then we had many people down in Fort Worth for the joining AREMA committee meetings. So we had committees, I know 9, 15, and 10 met at the beginning of the week. And then we had committee 7 at the end of the week. Committee 8 chose not to participate because they had a pretty cool opportunity to meet with the World of Concrete in Las Vegas in January. So they took advantage of that. We will not hold that against them. Vegas sounds pretty good. Anyway, so we had participants attending those committee meetings that did not attend, say, the symposium. So my point being, I think we had well into almost 400 railroad bridge engineers and or railroad bridge suppliers or anyone associated with the railroad bridge world in Fort Worth for a minute. So that was pretty cool. In fact, we broke a record. I can be on record for saying AREMA has been hosting symposiums now for several years. Each year, a functional group is responsible for putting one on. And so CNS or track, etc. So last year's was the Sustainability and Resiliency Symposium down in Tampa. I think they had in the 200s, 250, 225, something like that. And we blew the record out of the water by at least almost 75 people. So very, very cool. I think everyone had a good time. It was a great event that Wednesday evening at the golf place. I want to say Top Golf. It's not. I think it's called Big Shots. So I apologize to Big Shots, but we shut that place. We closed the whole thing down for all of our participants and filled it up. So very cool. Now, with that, what that brings me to is my two guests today. They are both here as participants in something called Bridges to Prosperity. When Ron Berry and I were putting this together, the Railroad Bridge Symposium, we were tasked with basically organizing and putting together the RBS, which included some of the best delegation by two gentlemen I've ever seen. Thank you very much. We had a great team of volunteers that did 90% of the work. However, Ron said, "Hey, Walt, I was just on this trip to Rwanda, and we built a bridge for the locals to get across a river crossing that is basically washed out every year when there's a rainy season," which honestly is not anything Ron's ever said to me. I was like, "Wow, cool. That sounds amazing." He said, "What would you think about bringing in a keynote speaker who's a part of that organization?" And I said, "That sounds fantastic." And so we brought in a gentleman named Nico, who works for Bridges to Prosperity. Didn't really know what to expect. Knew that, Ron took part of this event and it touched him and he really enjoyed it. And so we brought Nico in, and I will tell you, his presentation was the opening keynote to the RBS, and it was just great. Yeah, it was at 8 a.m. And I'll tell you right now, everybody was watching, everybody was paying attention. We had a follow-up session because there was so much interest at 5 p.m. with some of the other participants that went on that trip with Ron. And so we have two individuals that went with Ron on this trip last May to Rwanda to talk to us a little bit about globally what Bridges to Prosperity is and in their experiences and how to get involved. I think there were a lot of people in that room that said, "Hey, this is bigger than me. This is a great way to take my knowledge and skill set and use it to benefit more than somebody's bottom line." And great camaraderie, on and on and on. So, super long intro. Sorry about that, but that's the background because this is an interesting podcast because we've never really done one like this. Okay, so I have two folks with me, Jim and Erin. I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to let Erin go first. Erin's going to give a brief introduction as to kind of what she does in on her day-to-day, and then maybe a little bit about how she even got involved with Bridges to Prosperity. Erin, take it away.
Thank you, Walt. I'm really happy to be here. Thanks for having me. My name is Erin O'Malley. I'm a bridge engineer with HDR. I live in Austin, Texas. That's my hometown. I went to the University of Texas for my bachelor's and my master's, and I continue to live in Austin. It's a great place to live. My degree is actually architectural engineering, which mostly focused on buildings when I was in school. But after I graduated, I happened to get a bridge engineering job. So that's how I found my way kind of accidentally into the bridge industry. I like to say that I have two jobs. I'm a designer and I'm an inspector. So in my design job, I mostly do vehicular bridges and sometimes pedestrian bridges. And in my inspection job, I cross over a little bit more. Sometimes I do hydraulic structures like dams and gates, and I also get to inspect railroad bridges. So that's how I cross over into the railroad world.
Cool. And just as a quick follow-up to that, how long have you been practicing professionally?
I've been with HDR for 14 years.
14 years. Okay, cool. Welcome to the show. Jim.
Yeah, and thank you for having me as well. And I was fortunate enough to attend the RBS, and Walt, congrats on helping to put together a wonderful symposium that was really well attended, and I certainly enjoyed participating. But my name's Jim Costigan. I'm a bridge engineer with Modjeski and Masters in New Orleans, Louisiana. I grew up in southeast Minnesota, got my undergrad at University of Wisconsin-Platteville, and kind of floated down the river and got off at the last stop and stayed in New Orleans for the last 10 years. So I do bridge inspection, a little bit of bridge design. When they arise, I do some emergency response as well, and keeps me busy, keeps me out of trouble. And funny enough, my grandfather pounded a few railroad spikes before World War II in Iowa. Skipped a generation. My dad was a radio DJ, which is fitting for me to be on this podcast. And then I sort of fell back into it. So, yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, just listening to you, we had no idea that your dad might be a radio DJ.
I have done a few live shows with him over the years too, which have been a lot of fun.
That's outstanding, and I appreciate you one-upping me on this one because I don't have I don't have a face for TV or a voice for radio, but here we are. So awesome! Glad to have both of you here. Let's just start with the easiest of topics. Assuming that the audience that's listening has no idea what we're talking about, who wants to answer what is Bridges to Prosperity at a 20,000 foot level? Either one.
I'll take the first stab at that. So Bridges to Prosperity is an organization. They work all over the world, and their goal is to build bridges in rural communities where people get cut off from education, services like healthcare, businesses, when the rivers flood, or sometimes when the river water just goes up in the rainy season.
And examples of, Jim, sounds like you're going to pile on. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I'll just add that they have kind of recently been focused in a lot of African countries, Rwanda being one of the main ones, where they've partnered with the Rwandan government and have built hundreds of bridges, I think in the last probably 5 or 6 years, and have plans to continue to do that.
Okay. And Rwanda, I as soon as you hear that word, for those of us that are old enough, we think of the Hotel Rwanda movie. I think that was in the early 90s, mid 90s. It's been through some turmoil. And I would assume at this point, either of you can speak to that. I'm assuming it's calmed down. I'm assuming it's a safe place to visit. Was there any nerves from either of you going to Rwanda?
It's very safe. But I will say we were there in May of 2024, early May, and the 30-year anniversary of the genocide was basically April of 2024. So their history was front and center. All of the communities were having memorials. They were having events to commemorate what happened. It was right in front of us, and we were very aware of that. And we actually got time to go to the genocide memorial. So yes, it was a long time ago, but at the same time, when we were there, it was very front and center.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't even that long ago. I know, Jim, you're a history guy. We talked about this quite a bit in Fort Worth. I don't want to make this about the Rwandan genocide, but if the listeners were unaware or they wanted to learn more a little bit about what Erin just mentioned, do you have any research? Obviously, there's the movie. Are there any books did you prepare yourselves at all going into the country, reading something so you weren't just like, hey, we're Americans, we're here to help?
Yeah, I mean, part of our process with B2P in preparation to get into country, we had a series of calls, and one of them was a sort of cultural call that introduced us to a lot of these things and made us aware of the Rwandan perspective on things and how to approach the genocide and how to consider how they may think about it. And we did have a book that was suggested. I think it was called A Country of 1,000 Hills, something close to that, which was a very good book. There's a few others that a few of us have read that also help you prepare. Hotel Rwanda's a little Hollywoodized, but if you don't have any experience at all, it's probably a good place to start.
Okay. Just to get known. So I know when Mr. Carlson, Jeff, was speaking, and I know he's with the NSBA. We're going to get to that here in a second, which is NSBA, I believe, is part of AISC. I'm sorry to use alphabet soup. National Steel Bridge Alliance and American Institute of Steel Construction are those two organizations. I think he mentioned when they first started a partnership with Bridges to Prosperity, or B2P, as Jim referred to it, they were doing stuff in other countries, right? Nicaragua. I heard Nicaragua. I don't know if I heard others. Am I missing any?
Panama, um, Bolivia.
Wow. Okay. So they've been all right. So mostly third world countries, obviously, that need this type of assistance. But really, it sounds like they're focused on Rwanda and potentially other countries in Eastern Africa, or is that kind of just we're gonna do the best in Rwanda for right now? Is that kind of the thought?
They have an office in Rwanda, in Kigali, the capital. And so that office, their goal is to build, I think, 300 bridges by 2027 that'll serve over 1 million people in just Rwanda alone. But that group also serves Uganda and Ethiopia. So the people that we worked with were specifically the East Africa employees of B2P.
Wow. Okay. So 300 bridges in the next couple of years. All right. I want to. Well, let's just dive into that right now. So, up to, do you know how many? And I hate to put you on the spot with statistics. People don't like that. Do you know how many they've built to date in that region, just so people kind of understand how close they are to their goal? Roughly 10?
No, I think it's closer to 250.
Okay. And they've been doing this for a couple of years, 2, 3 years?
I think they started in Rwanda in 2019. So they are more than halfway done through their schedule.
Okay. And okay. So 19. So we're talking, 5 or 6 years now. So it's pretty aggressive to get that done in the next couple of years. So it sounds like if I've got an aggressive goal of getting these 300 structures done in the next couple of years, I'm going to need people to help. Right. So let's dive into that. Did the two of you know each other prior to this event?
No, we did not.
No.
Most
All
of
right.
our team did not know each other.
That's exactly what I wanted to hear, because it sounds like each of you found out or have separate paths on how you got on this trip. And I think that's kind of what people may want to hear about. And I'm going to start with you, Erin. I know I believe you said you worked for HDR. They're a large architectural engineering firm in the U.S. You're based out of Austin. How did you find out about B2P? And how did you get, just walk me through first hearing about it, going, man, I got to help with that, to I'm on a plane heading there. Can you walk me through that?
Sure. So HDR has been partnering with NSBA for many years now, and we've sent several employees on trips all over the world. And so we do internal presentations about their experiences. It's something that gets advertised internally within the company. So I had seen a lot of these presentations, and I always thought, oh, that's so cool. But I had never crossed a big ocean before. I've gone north and I've gone south, and I travel a lot domestically for my job. But I had never traveled across either the Pacific or the Atlantic. So it was very intimidating to me when I first saw these presentations. Then in 2023, the HDR person who got selected to go to the 2023 build happened to be somebody that I worked with. It was Matt Bruno. And he came back from his trip and said, oh my God, this was amazing. You should do this. You should apply for it. And at first I thought, no, I don't know. That's intense. But then I thought about it. And then the 2024 application came out. And I thought, I'm going to apply. I'm going to go for this. So I filled out my application. I didn't know how many other people were applying. I didn't know, what exactly they were looking for on the application, but I submitted it and I got picked. And then fortunately, I had Matt as a resource. I asked him a ton of questions. And by the time I actually went, I felt very prepared, both from talking to Matt and from talking to the rest of the team and talking to B2P. So it was a slow process for me to kind of build up the courage to go for something like this. And now that I've done it, I would absolutely do it again. It was amazing.
Awesome story. So, and I'm sorry, who's Matt?
Matt Bruno is another bridge inspector that I work with. He's actually out of the Denver office, but because he's on the national inspection team as well, we've worked together for years. So that gave me a lot of confidence knowing him and his experience.
All right, I want to get into the nitty gritty of that trip because I know it's a long one. But that's fascinating. So you literally, HDR is big. How many people work for HDR?
Globally and all the different disciplines, we're more than 10,000 people.
All right, so think about that, folks. Like if you're listening to this, there's an individual working within the confines of a 10,000 person firm where it's probably easy to feel like, I don't want to say cog in the wheel, but hey, you could feel small, and all of a sudden you're watching a presentation that gets you inspired. You put your hand up, next thing you know, she's got a sponsorship to go on a trip that maybe changed her life. I think that's an awesome story, Erin. So thank you for sharing that, and thank you for sharing the fact that you're not a jet setter. I think that's another thing that I think we live in this world of social media, and you feel like, oh man, these people are going to Europe every week, or they're going to Asia all the time for their job, and they're just used to it, right? But that's not always the case. So I think your story of not having done a ton of international travel and still having the confidence to do it is inspiring. So thank you for sharing that. And I'm going to contrast that with a gentleman who was cleaning trash off of a bascule bridge in India for part of his job. Jim, why don't you do the same thing Erin did? I want to compare and contrast your walks here.
Yeah, so we probably do have a lot of parallels. Modjeski has also sent someone for many of the past few years, and we do internal presentations, which gets people really excited about the opportunity. And I know a number of the people that have went on the past trips, and they described it to me. I thought it sounded like something that was really awesome to have the opportunity to partake in. And we do things a little less formally than HDR does, where if you're interested, your name goes on a piece of paper and one of our senior management draws you out of a hat. And so I had applied for a few years and got lucky to actually be drawn this year. And yes, well, I have been lucky to travel to some pretty unique places with my job, looking at bridges. There was another member on the team from the Iowa DOT, and it was his first time leaving the U.S. So I think, to emphasize your point, you don't have to be somebody who, has a lot of frequent flyer miles. It can be a really cool opportunity for your first time out of the country too.
Yeah, at the same time, it's pretty intimidating, guys. Whether you like it or not. I mean, that is a heck. I mean, let's talk about that flight. I talked to Ron about it many times. I don't know if each of you went different ways, but Erin, how did you go from Austin, Texas to Rwanda?
So my big leg was Dallas to Doha. On the way there, it's 12 or 13 hours. On the way home, it's closer to 14, maybe 15. Definitely the longest flight I have ever been on. But it was actually pretty nice. I was surprised at how often they fed you and all the movies that they have. So it wasn't that bad. I was definitely worried going into it. And it's very manageable.
So wait, so Doha is where?
Doha is in Qatar. It's in the Middle East.
That's what I thought. So you had to go from Doha to somewhere.
Yeah, so then my connecting from Doha down to Kigali, that was a casual 6 hours.
Casual 6? Well, yeah, after
Casual
13,
6.
I mean, come on. All right, so I heard 19 hours of flying time.
Pretty much.
With a
Plus
stop.
some layovers.
Plus some layovers. All right, that's a haul. Jim, how about you?
I think I went to DC to Brussels, Belgium, and then Brussels to Kigali. And a slightly different path on the way back, which included Nairobi, Kenya.
Got it.
But yeah, very, very manageable. I mean, you kind of just, you sit back, relax, watch a movie, eat the airline food, and next thing you know, after a nap or two, you're arriving in Kigali. So,
and let's talk about that arrival in Kigali. What kind of jet lag are we talking about here, folks? Are we talking? What time is it there now? Are they on the other side of the world?
They're 7 or 8 hours ahead of us, kind of depending on where you are in the U.S.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a flip.
Got it. Okay, so we're there. All right. So we're landing in Kigali. We're meeting our team. How long are you? What's the plan? Is it 1 week, 10 days, 2 weeks? What's the actual from the moment you land to the moment you go back on the airplane timeline?
So we met up on a Saturday night for dinner. People came in kind of slowly over a few days, but we were all there by Saturday night. We drove to our accommodations on Sunday and we started working on Monday. And then we had a full 2 weeks of build. So it was a week, a weekend off, a week back on. Then we all went back to Kigali for the weekend and flew home.
And let's talk about connectivity, Jim. Were you able to call your mom every night like you generally do, or no?
It was hit and miss. I mean, from the start, we definitely had frequent Wi-Fi connectivity. Of course, on the site, we're in a pretty rural location, so day to day, we didn't necessarily have Wi-Fi. And the house that we stayed in did have some opportunities for, because we were kind of in a small community, we could go to a nearby hotel and get pretty consistent Wi-Fi connectivity to call your mother or girlfriend or your boss.
Well, you didn't. I don't remember my phone ringing. So, all right, well, that's fantastic. So we've got a house and the team. How big is the team? Was it 10 people?
It's 11.
11 people. 2 weeks. On this podcast, we are not going to get into the nitty gritty of what you actually did. Okay, what I mean by that is the technical piece. My understanding is when you arrived, the substructure, the structure had been designed, the location had already been picked out prior, all the hydraulic studies were done. So and the substructure was basically complete, and it was the job of you and your team for 2 weeks to put the superstructure up, which I believe consisted of a wonky suspension slash, I can't remember the name you said. It was suspension on one half and it was something else on the other side. Who wants to talk to that?
We were a true suspension bridge. So
it was, okay.
And far from wonky. I think it was a very, very good design. Very, very true construction, and I think it will last for them a very long time.
That's exactly literally I opened that door for you to walk through. I use the term wonky because of the fact that I think people in the audience, I heard some like, oh, I don't know about that detail. I think they were taking it a little too far. What I saw was something that is going to, especially just based on the hydraulics, right? Just getting it out of harm's way. I think in this country we have, and frankly in our industry, we have sometimes a poor perspective of different materials and how we build things can be we work in a very conservative industry, right? The railroad structures are built very conservatively. But man, if you take care of a timber bridge and it doesn't catch fire, it can last a very, very long time. And so what I saw you guys building was, I thought it was very cool. It was not intuitive. It was innovative in that the clipping system. A lot of it was all hand tools, right? You weren't.
Yes.
There was no weird proprietary presses or anything, right?
No.
And you were getting your materials from. Right. Yeah. Go ahead, Erin. Sorry.
It's designed at a human scale so that you can build it with just human power and just hand tools, because you can't truck in a crane. You can't even truck in a lot of your materials. You're walking stuff from point A to point B. You're using wrenches, you're using sockets, you're using people. So it has to be designed in a way that you can build it in that remote environment with really just people, no equipment, no machines.
Which was cool. Like let me just give something that stuck out to me. Like the pin connection for the tower was neat, right? Because it's like, how in the world are they going to erect that tower? And then it's a pin connected tower in essence that then locks out when you get it. Like you guys were able to prop it up, and then it looked like the hardest part, correct me if I'm wrong, was running that cable. That looked pretty heavy.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's heavy, but we're out there with about 20 to 30 community members.
There we go.
When you get 40 people picking that thing up and moving with it, then it's not so bad.
Yeah, and I think we forget how much fun it is to work in a group of people like that and sort of use the call and response, heave ho. Where in today's construction, we're relying so heavily on heavy equipment, and to be in an environment where you're working with people who don't necessarily speak the same language as you, and being able to use the universal, point and shout language of, hey, this is what we're going to do. It's a lot of fun to build a bridge that way.
Yeah. So it almost didn't feel like work. I mean, it felt like work, but it didn't. I mean, talk to me a little bit here. I heard 11 of you, 30 people from the community or so. So like the community, it's not like you're just showing up to a job site by yourselves. Can we talk a
Right.
little bit about the community involvement, however you want to portray it?
Yeah, I think it's important to point out that, yeah, we did not sweep in by ourselves and build this bridge and then give it to the community. The community built the bridge and we helped them. So you mentioned they had already done all of the earthwork and all of the foundation work and all of the concrete. They had been working on this for months before we showed up. And then we show up just to help with the superstructure, the towers, the cables, the deck, the barrier, and then we get to be there for the big party at the end. Um, but really, it was the community that built this bridge. They have a lot of skilled labor already. They have masons. They have people who know, what we would consider kind of like basic house maintenance, bike maintenance, that DIY stuff. These people, they already have the skills to do this. B2P just gives them the tools, gives them the guidance, and then gives them us as helpers. So yeah, I want to give a shout out to the community because what they did was really incredible.
Which provides that ownership factor, right? So I think
Yes.
one of the big questions that came up in the audience there at the RBS, Jim, and you can speak to this, is the maintenance side, right? So people are like, all right, cool, you guys go up, you show up, and you do this bridge, and you leave. Well, this thing needs to last, 10, 20, 30 years. Can you speak to that? Because I heard something about training the locals, but I don't think I have it straight.
Yeah, one of the really, I think, cool and sustainable aspects of these bridge constructions with B2P is that they actually select some of the more skilled or hardest working community members to stick around and have maintenance contracts to help with the prevention of vandalism or theft, and then just general. I mean, we all know that bridges need maintenance over time, so just general maintenance, and that's what keeps these shiny and new bridges when we leave. But we also had some people that were lucky to see some of the other bridges that had been built throughout the country on our team, and they said, yeah, they were very well maintained, and they were in a position where they would last. I think one of the really funny parts for us, for our team, was shortly after our inauguration. Someone came flying down the hill on a motorcycle and took their motorcycle across the bridge, and our bridge was close to 300 feet, so you can imagine driving a motorcycle at you know 15, 20 miles an hour over a bridge that's probably about 4 feet wide. Well, by the time the individual got to the end of it, his handlebars had hooked one of the fences, and the maintenance, the sort of the supervisor for the maintenance crew. I don't speak very much Kinyarwandan, but I could understand what he was saying to that motorcycle driver with a lot of pointing and shouting. And point being, I think they take their job very seriously, and that was really, really nice to see.
Well, it's their bridge, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's the old adage that you generally take care of something more if you earned it than if it was provided to you, right? Regardless of what we're talking about. Well, there were definitely some touching moments at the end here, and I kind of want to wrap up with what was your? I mean, I'll tell you right now what my takeaway was. I'm not gonna tell you guys till you tell me yours. But what was your if you had to tell somebody, you're in a classic elevator speech, you have less than 60 seconds. I mean, what was your biggest takeaway of if someone said, "Hey, did you enjoy your trip to Rwanda?" How would you describe that quickly? Erin, I'll let you go first, and then Jim.
Yeah, my biggest takeaway was just how the community functions. Everybody helps everybody. Everybody has a role to play. So our team, our community team, was a really diverse group of people, young people, old people, men, women, and they made a point to find a job that everybody could do so that everybody could participate.
Very cool. So that community piece for you really stuck out,
Yes.
and just the fact that they were able to participate, help build, and now it's theirs. It's their bridge. Very cool, Jim.
Yeah, I think meeting a team of people that you've never met before in another country. We had a really great team that was very quickly, very cohesive. But I think, speaking to probably the audience of this podcast, I think many of us have participated in, either bringing a line onto service or restoring a bridge from an emergency, and the emotions surrounding watching that locomotive cross for the very first time. That's a very powerful moment, but I think it really pales in comparison to helping somebody who's a senior citizen of a community or even a school walk across a bridge for the first time that has, in the past years, people have lost, livestock and food and even some of their lives. So really just being able to have that really personal connection to something that you were doing, and really seeing, like, we get the opportunity to serve the community in a transportation system, but we don't very often get the direct sort of influence that we're providing. So that was really cool for me.
So I'll go ahead and thank you both for asking me what I think. I mean, I'll be honest with you, the kids, guys, watching the kids go across that bridge to go to their school. I mean, you don't need to speak their language to see the excitement and the happiness and the way they were jumping up and down on that bridge. They were so excited to be able to go to their school and to not have to cross a rickety piece of a log or something under high water. I can tell you right now, in my conversations with Ron, I guess you guys visited the school. Is that right? Which is kind of a rare deal.
I think for the last couple of years in Rwanda, they've made an effort to have the teams visit a school. So that was a planned thing.
Okay. He said that brought him to tears.
Yes.
It was his words, I guess. Okay. That was pretty. I mean, I think I was sitting next to him during some of the videos, and I think he was tearing up just watching the videos. So, I mean, that's to your point. When you're out there working your tail off, and you do see that first train, and you're low on sleep, and it's been a 12-hour outage, etc. It's exciting. Don't get me wrong, but it's different. At the end of the day, to see a freight train go by versus 55 3 to 8 year olds smiling and happily running across that bridge. That was powerful. All right, let's get to the nitty gritty here in the very last couple minutes. I'm out there. I'm listening to this podcast. You guys got me so excited. I want to participate, and I don't know even if my company does participate. What's some resources? For example, my company. All right, so I run a small company that does bridge inspection and maintenance and design. Let's say ARE wanted to get involved, or one of my guys comes to me and wants to get involved. What's that pathway look like?
Yeah, so I actually spoke to Jeff Carlson this morning. I think there's multiple different ways to get involved with B2P. For our connection with the NSBA, reaching directly out to Jeff Carlson and letting him know that either you or one of your employees is interested in joining the next trip. Or if you have more capacity than that, you can reach out directly to Nico Torini with B2P, and he helps to set up corporate teams. So maybe you have 10 or so employees that are interested in going. So I guess it kind of depends on your level of commitment, but
Fair.
Either of those are good options.
Yeah, I was pretty impressed with Jeff, and so since you name dropped him, I will just plug his last name is Carlson, and his email address is Carlson, Carlson @aisc.org. I think if you dropped him a quick note, he would be very responsive to at least getting you on the right path. And then for those of you, let's go back to Erin. It sounds like you were watching presentations that HDR was putting on. So it might be as simple as talking to your senior leadership.
Yeah. Our team was made up of consultants, owners, people who work in steel fabrication, So there's a lot of those big companies are involved with either B2P specifically or some other organization like Engineers Without Borders. So yeah, if you work for a bigger company, there's a possibility that you already have a route established. So yeah, talk to your senior leadership, get details about that.
And you make a great point. It's not just railroad. So I know this is a railroad-oriented podcast. It's a AREMA-sponsored podcast. And hey, maybe this is the opportunity where we bridge that gap to our friends with much less live load to dead load ratio on the highway side, and they might hear it too, right? Because you guys had, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought I saw someone there from the New Hampshire Department of Transportation.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I heard something about the Iowa Department of Transportation.
Yep.
Okay, so there were other folks there that really, it had nothing to do with railroads. It really has to do with steel construction for bridges, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's make sure we're very clear that this is not you do not need to recite the order of the Cooper E80 loading prior to boarding the train or the plane. Excuse me. Wow, did you see that slip? That'd be a long train ride. Cool. Man, you guys did awesome. And I can't think of a lot of questions I have here. Both of you, trying to think, we'll try to put in the show notes how to get a hold of each of you if someone maybe feels more comfortable reaching out. It sounds like either of you would be willing to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, cool. And so Erin O'Malley's in HDR in Austin, Texas, and my friend Jim here is in Modjeski and Masters down there in New Orleans. Very cool, very powerful, very moving stuff. I guess here's how I'd like to leave it. If each of you could just maybe say, Erin, you're talking to that young person who just sent you an email like, hey, I'm interested in this. Why should I do it? Do you want to send them what would you tell that person?
I would tell them to go for it. Like I mentioned, this was such an out of the box trip for me. And I've told that to a lot of people. So I know it sounds intimidating. I know it might be a new experience. I know it might be really different from what you do in your job on a day-to-day, but go for it because B2P will prepare you. Past volunteers like me and Jim, we will prepare you. And by the time you go, you're going to feel ready and it's going to be a great experience.
I love that. And Jim, are you planning on doing another one or are either of you planning on doing another one in the next 5 to 10 years?
I mean, I would love to do another one, and I would absolutely jump at the opportunity to do another one. But I would say to anyone who is, thinking about doing it, considering it, I think we often get caught up in the busyness of our lives and, make maybe excuses. My kids are young, or I'm starting a new business, or, this or that. But there's no better time than now to do something like this. I think that, if you have the opportunity, I think take it with 110% energy. It's a beautiful thing.
Yes. I would also like to say, as a person with small children, the result of you choosing to go there for 2 weeks, what happens to you and your wife is no result of anything said on the AREMA podcast. That the liability there has been washed. But that's awesome. I love both your stories. I like how you came at it from a different place. This whole thing was cool. This was a really fun podcast to put together. So I want to thank you both, and we'll see you down the road.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Walt.
Thank you for rolling with AREMA on today's episode of Platform Chats. For further information about AREMA, please visit arema.org or contact us at info@arema.org.